It can be daunting, I think, as a woman leader.
Probably a lot of things need to change. It needs to be at the education level in high schools, colleges, and women being shown that there are absolutely opportunities that you can go and have a fantastic career in.
Your network is the most valuable thing that you can have, I think.
Hi, I'm Samantha Jones. I'm the marketing director here at Knight Knox, and for episode 10 of our podcast, we are celebrating International Women's Day, and I have two incredible women that work in the property industry with me today.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Cox from E3P, Technical Director of the Manchester office and Managing Director of the Birmingham office.
Hi, I'm Jaime Stanton and I'm a Graduate Business Development Manager at Morgan Sindall.
Great. So we're going to just run through our experience. I think we've got three completely different backgrounds, experiences, ages. So I think it'd be really interesting to see sort of what our different experiences are and, how we've navigated different things throughout our careers. Jaime, can you tell us about your journey into the property industry and what inspired you to enter the field?
Yeah, so I used to work at a company called World Chamber of Commerce, started there when I was about 15 on work experience and worked with them ever since. So they have, they're a membership organisation, they offer business support as well. So through working for them, I moved around all the different departments and eventually ended up working on their events while I was at university. I was at Manchester Met and I was studying business psychology, which I absolutely loved. And through the events, I met Morgan Sindall, so our old managing director, Barry. Met him through that and he just basically explained that there was an opportunity coming up with Morgan Sindall and wondered if I'd be interested to join the industry, which I had actually never even considered at the time. I had no idea what I did want to do, but I'd never thought about construction or property. So it sort of went from there, really. I had my interview and then fast forward about 12 months later, I started with Morgan Sindall. Amazing.
Steph, what about you?
So I've had a slightly different journey into the property sector. I studied environmental science at university and it kind of led me into consultancy. So I look at the contaminated land and remediation and redevelopment of sites for development. So I've kind of found myself in the property industry, but from a more of a sideline side.
Yeah, I mean, mine's completely different. So I have always worked in marketing. That's what my degree was in PR and marketing. And I happened to work for a property company. So completely didn't intend to go into property. My background was originally retail. And then on the marketing side, it was education, selling education. So this opportunity came up and here I am now, so to speak. So have you faced any challenges as women in the property sector and how did you overcome them? Anything in particular spring to mind?
So yes, many challenges. Probably the main thing that I have found throughout my career is being, when I first came into it being very male dominated, me being the only female engineer on site.
Which is quite common.
Yeah. And just obviously working up through your career, you gain knowledge, you gain experience, and you do gain respect from people who you know in the industry. The difficulty still comes when I go into, say, a meeting or I go to meet someone on site who doesn't necessarily know who I am and know that the experience that I do have and just kind of see me as a little girl who doesn't really know anything, and they can be very much, oh, well, can you go and find your director? I'm like, I am the director. And it's, I do see that quite a lot, and you do see when they actually understand that you are the one with the experience, the tone immediately changes, and then you're treated completely differently.
But that's not the assumption from the start.
No, exactly.
I suppose, for myself, I think because I work for a property company. I'm on the marketing team. I've been a manager since I started here and then worked my way up. I wouldn't like to say I've faced really any challenges because it's the property industry. I would say, I think as a woman just in an organisation, you do have a different set of challenges in general, which are, I suppose, the language that's sometimes used, and not necessarily here, in previous companies I've had, which is around, if you're not passionate, you're emotional, the typical things that get said about women. But I don't think I personally have had those, definitely not the same kind of challenges that you have. I mean, as a graduate coming in, and I suppose from a very different organisation, have you experienced anything like that?
I think I've been really lucky, to be honest. I haven't really had a lot. There's been one or two events maybe where there's been the odd inappropriate comment, but aside from that, I've really not had to face a lot of challenges in terms of just being a woman. I think being young also, there is a lot of events where you go to and you speak to men and they're of an older age and they look down on you as a young woman into the industry. And obviously I haven't come from a technical background, so yeah. I don't know absolutely everything, and holding conversations with architects and engineers can be quite difficult sometimes, but I would find that difficult anyway because I've not got that experience myself. Yeah. But I think as time has gone on, I've learnt loads more about it now. I feel like I am quite confident in most situations. I'm able to hold them conversations. And I just think that, it's not been too bad for me, quite luckily. And hopefully that is a sign that the industry has moved on. And I think it's definitely changed a lot from when you joined the industry, which is a really positive thing.
I was going to say, it's quite interesting that you use the phrase or the wording luckily, because it's almost like we're saying, we anticipate it, whereas actually maybe things are changing. Maybe that it's not luckily now that you haven't experienced it. Maybe that's because a younger generation of men, women and people are seen as more equal, so that's surely got to be a good thing. Maybe that's where the conversation's going, so we should sort of embrace that a little bit more, maybe.
Yeah, I would say that there's definitely been a lot of changes. I've been in the industry for 16 years, I think, and there's definitely been a marked change. Yeah, not enough, but as long as we all keep on steadily kind of empowering women and just working together to create a better environments, I think that we are on the up. As an industry.
So it's leading on quite well from that is, how do you navigate leadership in a male-dominated industry, and I suppose technical engineering is a lot more heavily dominated, and have you got any tips for women maybe wanting to enter that industry?
So as my role, it is very much leadership. That comes into it. I kind of consider myself having two roles. It's the technical element, which is the science and all of that behind it, but then there is that leadership role, and in across both of the offices, that is my first and foremost job. I would say that I probably would. It can be daunting, I think, as a woman leader, because you can run the risk of coming across mean or overly emotional or overreacting or something that if your male counterpart was to say the same thing may not come across.
I'd argue most men are probably more irrational and run by the hormones than most women are. Yeah.
And I have faced a lot of things of oh, she's really scary. Oh, she's an ice queen. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm trying to do a job, and I'm trying to ensure. I get it a lot where the graduates and consultants say things. I'm like, my job is to make you the best that you can possibly be, So if I was just let you do whatever and not be a leader,
you're not doing your job.
I'm not doing my job. And that is my job, to make you be your best self, whatever that capability is. That is my job. So I think that I kind of just try and just stick with the strength. And that's probably what I would say to people kind of starting out, is be strong, have faith in yourself, always back yourself.
Yeah.
Because you are your own advocate.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's probably the coverall, I would say.
Yeah. So, Jamie, do you think there's enough support for women in property? And what improvements would you like to see?
Maybe not quite enough just yet. I think just on that leadership point, it's really great to have female leaders. So obviously I don't lead anyone at the moment coming in as a graduate, but we have some really great leaders in our business. Like I've got my mentor Emma, and we've got Jenny as well. She's our pre-con manager, and having them both that I work so closely with as such strong female leaders and really being able to stand and hold their own is really inspirational to see. So as a starting point, having people like that to look up to in the industry is absolutely brilliant and does a lot. And we need more women in leadership roles that are there because they're more than capable of doing the job. More of that's that people that are young coming into the industry, and just women in the industry in general, can look to them and have it as their inspiration to look to. And I think another part as well about women in the industry, something that is really helpful, is women in property, the events that they do, being able to go to those events and meet with other women. It can be quite daunting anyway, just going to an event. So when you walk in and it's all full of women, it just makes it just that little bit easier. You can talk about different conversations that maybe you wouldn't have with men. If you have got children, you can talk to them about your children, and it's just slightly a little bit more relatable, and it's a bit more relaxing to walk into that. So it's definitely easier. And at any event, if there's a group of women, I will tend to go over to talk to them first. It's just so much easier and more welcoming. But I think there's definitely still a lot more that we can get to. I think in terms of site teams as well, I don't work on a site, but we do go and visit them regularly. There's still a gap of, we need to bring more women in onto the sites, and we're doing a lot of work in the schools to try and inspire young children to think that it's not just men on sites and in the hard hat, and change the perception of the construction industry. We've got a lot of women in the office working in our pre-con team. We have got a good proportion of women that are QSs and site managers, project managers, but it'd just be nice to get that up even more, and then also through our supply chain to have more women, so that when you do go to a site or walk past a site, it's getting closer to that even split, which probably again a long way to go from here, but it's looking at what we can do to try and help that and raise the profile a bit more.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think a lot of it is to do with education and starting early, because I know when I was at school a long time ago, it wouldn't even been considered that you would go into one of those industries. On the careers days, you were steered towards being, I wanted to be an air hostess, I do a typically female role in marketing, which I do actually think has changed over the years, and I think it's a lot more 50-50 now between men and women, but they were the roles you were talked to about. I couldn't have contemplated back then that I could have been a pilot or worked in the construction industry. It just wasn't something that you were even given as an option. And I think that's where probably a lot of things need to change. It needs to be at the education level in high schools, colleges, and women being shown that there are absolutely opportunities that you can go and have a fantastic career in.
Yeah, I was actually in a meeting earlier this week. It was on the back of a conference in contaminated land, and I was working with one of the other ladies in the industry to bring together all of the kind of early career professionals together at the end of the conference, just to get a bit of a flavour of how, and it wasn't necessarily to do with men or women in the industry. It was people, when to capture them to come into the industry.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting to hear what our early career professionals were saying, that realistically the education needs to be in schools.
Yeah.
It needs to be at that stage, needs to be when we're choosing our A-levels. Are they still A-levels? I think they are. And it has to be then, because that's when women, young women and men, but that's when they need to be, their heart captured into the industry.
Yeah.
That's when they need to see what a varied career they can have if they went down that pathway. But it also feels like a very, very daunting task to even start thinking about all of the schools and all of the people that you can reach. But realistically, it does start with education about how good a career you can have, and how interested you'd be in that career if you did kind of come into the kind of property industry.
And I think it's talking to other people about their jobs, because I know when I first started going to some of the women in property events, I remember coming out of one of them, I was like, why did I not train as an architect? It sounds so interesting. But I'd never had those conversations before, and not with other women. I was, the majority of architects are still men. It's definitely changing, and we're definitely, moving towards parity. But those are the kind of conversations that, like you say, you need to get young girls inspired by wanting to do something, and what they find, and knowing that if they like maths or they like English, or those interests can translate into really interesting careers.
Yeah, I think that there's probably just not enough work done on, if you like these 3 subjects or 3 or 4 subjects, what that actually translates to.
Yeah.
As a job. And I don't know, and again, it's been a long time since I've been at school, but I don't think that exercise is done in schools to
Probably
say, right,
not.
okay, you do these 3 subjects, you can be all of these. And I do think that something like that would be really quite helpful, because how are you going to know what all of the jobs are?
Yeah, I mean, I remember looking through a university book that just had different career subjects and thinking, I don't know what to do. Everyone else I know is going to university. That sounds interesting. Yeah. I'll do that. It was about as simple as that. There was no further thought from it, because we didn't have anyone come in, and we didn't have anyone talk to us, or, say like, well, I do this job, or, this is what you can do if you go into these careers. We didn't have any of that. And I don't know, because I don't really know anyone of that age, but I'm assuming it's probably not that different now.
I think our school options were medicine, lawyer, accountant. I went to go do medicine, didn't get my grades, landed where I am, and thank goodness, because I really hate blood. So it wouldn't have been the career for me.
Probably not.
Yeah. But that was it. That was those are kind of the vocational careers. They're not. Yeah, I didn't know about anything else.
Hopefully, even. I'm assuming this isn't going to go global, but someone. I always think if one person, or one girl, or one listens to this, or listens to something that you do, or you go out and you do something and you meet someone and they take something away from what you've said, then that's great, and that's all you can ask, really. So I suppose leading on from that, what would you say, and we've probably got very different ideas of what this looked like, what's been your proudest moment in your career so far, Jamie? So obviously you're starting off in your career, but proud can be different things to different people. What would you say in sort of from leaving uni and doing the work you're doing now, what's made you feel the proudest?
I think just really throwing myself in there. Like, think sometimes I actually ever take a minute back to appreciate what I do. A lot of my working week is spent at networking events. It's with clients, it's with consultants, it's having meetings. You're constantly out and about, you're constantly talking, always got your game face on, you've always got to wear your smile, represent the business, and it can actually be really, really challenging and really tiring sometimes. And I think I just get on with it. I do it and every single day. Sometimes it's nice to just actually step back and look at that and look that, you know, I've not even been in the industry for 2 years yet. I've met so many people, I've made some really meaningful connections, starting to get to the point now where people will just pick up the phone to me and have a conversation. I'm able to hold my own having those conversations with people. And I think one thing that has really stood out and helped with that, I won an award for Business Person of the Year for the City of Manchester Awards with Downtown and Business, which was in September, which was just after my 1 year. So I think for me to be able to finish my first year in the industry, and also to add like an industry that I'd had no idea about, never worked in before, to travel back and forth to Manchester is just a really, really great thing. And I was really, really proud to have that recognition. So yeah, I think it was just
amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Steph, what would you say?
So probably my proudest moments is becoming a director of E3P, both as in my technical basis, so the technical director role, and then opening up a new office in Birmingham. I'm very much throwing myself into it, leaving my little boys at home while I trek down the M6 all the time, but achieving it and doing it, and knowing that I have done that. I've been off, had 2 children, and I've still got that kind of drive and that ambition and doing that. And then also in the same year becoming chair of Women in Property. It's a very, very busy year to come, I have to say. But yeah, I'm proud that I have stuck with everything that I've worked for, despite going off. And I've had 2 one-year stints of maternity leave, and I've still had the confidence and the strength to come back and keep on working towards what I've always wanted to work on. And I guess I'm proud of myself for sticking with it, because some days it can be a lot easier just to not go.
I think everyone has those days, whether you're a man, woman, kids, not. But like you say, when you've got a lot on, that's a lot to take on at the same time. So yeah, I guess I'm proud of myself for just sticking with it and just keep on going.
Getting out of bed some days.
Yeah, that's
getting dressed.
I mean, so I really had to think about this, and not because there's not things that I've done that I haven't proud of. I could probably, list things to do with working here that I'm really proud of, like, taking seminars overseas and completely organising, running them being a success. Like there are so many, we've opened a Dubai office. There's so many key things, and I was really thinking about this morning when I knew we were going to do the podcast, and I thought back and I thought, especially if we're talking about International Women's Day, but this actually applies to women and men. So throughout my time here, so I've been here for 13 years, which is a very long time, and I've always had a real mix of genders in my department. So we've always had, even from day one, a mix of male and female. And what I think I'm most proud of is that because inevitably when you're in-house marketing department, you're only so big, you can only grow so far. People are going to leave after a certain length of time because they're going to want to specialise, or they're going to want to get promoted, and there are certain ceilings just because the team isn't big enough for you to grow. And I've had some really good longevity in terms of team members, which I think is really good for in-house. And I'm talking probably an average of 3 or 4 years, and then people have stayed for 9 years, 11 years, which is amazing. But what's always sort of really stuck in my mind is I've had about 3 or 4 members of staff who, when they've left, they've either written me like a card or a note and like sort of really moved me when they've, nothing over the top, but just thanked me. And I think you have a lot of, or I've had a lot in my career of like imposter syndrome, and you worry if you're doing a good job, you worry in everything. And then to have someone tell you that you have really helped them in their career, or helped them even make the move to do something different, or made them feel like they can do something, then they're the bits that I sort of, if I'm having a bit of a, oh my God day or a down day, I think, no, actually, do you know what? I can do this, and it is a good thing, and it's such a look, we all get it wrong, we all do things, it's all things you look back and hindsight's amazing and you change things, but I think overall they're the bits that I'm like, actually that I made a difference to someone. And I think that's quite as a manager, that's a really important thing to be able to take away, and sort of to have that feeling is quite,
it's rewarding.
Yeah,
isn't it?
It's really rewarding. So yeah, I suppose that's what I'd say was mine. So if you could go back in time and give your younger self, your very younger self, one piece of career advice, what would it be? So go on, you go first, Steph.
Okay, so I used to be very, very shy, like painfully shy, and I still do think that I'm very shy, to be honest, but no, everyone I say that to always say you're
no,
absolutely not. But so I used to be, I used to have, huge, it used to be a massive deal to speak up in a room and speak my opinion, speak my point. And it only came with the working world and being in situations where I was pushed out of my comfort zone, where I had to perform because I was suddenly stuck in a situation and I had two choices. I could just freeze or do something or say something. And I think my advice to my younger self would have been just don't think about it. Just say it, because you have the faith. You've got to have the faith in yourself to say it. And if you know what you're saying is the right thing, especially to you, or the right thing technically, then why stay quiet? You've just got to, again, you've got to back yourself. And I think it's that I should have just worked on my confidence a little bit more and just had more faith in myself, really, I would say.
Okay. Jamie?
I think mine would be to just take every opportunity that comes. I'm only here today because I was presented with an opportunity and I just threw myself into it and absolutely grabbed it with both hands and went along with it. But I think it's quite a difficult thing to do that. And so, I would just say that to take the opportunities when they come, and to also, as well, from a young age, start building your network as soon as you possibly can, because there's people that you will meet when you're in your first ever job that could literally in like 10-20 years time be really useful to you. There's people that I know from my time at the chamber that I still talk to now that come in random waves of ways that we can work together within the industry, and I absolutely love that. But your network is the most valuable thing that you can have, I think, when you're working, because it's all about you as a person, and people invest in people. Like if somebody thinks you're great and really likes speaking to you and whatever, then they'll go out their way to help you when you need that help and support. And I think having a network that's like that and having people that you can rely on is a really important thing, and something that it will never go away. That's yours. No one can tell you who you know, and have those experiences with people. So to just keep your network really valuable to you and keep growing it, because you just never know when someone is going to be the person that you need to get you somewhere, or what you could do for someone else as well to help them get somewhere. So
and I think just to add to that, because I wholeheartedly agree, but if you make your network, especially as you first start out, you know, everyone's kind of going through the ranks, and those same people then become the decision makers. Yeah. And then you suddenly find that you're in an environment where, well, I'm with all the decision makers. And that's quite, as you're starting out, you think, oh, well, I could never be a decision maker up there. But actually, it just grows organically, and you make that network, and it's not, there's no effort to it, because they actually become your friends, because you know, you're busy growing it, and it's just, you've got friendships in the same industry with, so, you know, the same common interests.
Yeah. And I think as well, like, if the people who are starting out in their careers at the minute, like myself, going out there and getting to meet other people and getting yourself out there networking is what the difference will be for you to be moving up in the business. Because like you say, when it then does come down the line 10, 20 years, if you've grown up with a certain group of people and you've known them for so many years and you've all come up together, then you're all going to be really tight knit, you're going to be friends and so on. And then the people that sort of weren't going out and networking, they might not have also got to that level, but then they also don't really know those other people and they've missed out. And I just think people can get really, really like scared to go out and network, but everyone there is in the same position. Like, nobody really, really enjoys it and goes to an event and thinks, this is great, I'm going to speak to loads of people and try and remember everything they say.
No one does that.
Everyone does. And even now, so like, I go to 3 events a week, 4 or 5, it varies. Even now, there's still some events where I go and I'm literally like, oh my gosh, I do not want to walk into that door right now. But that is just the first step. Just walk in, just speak to one person. Just go and do that, because you will just meet people that can help, like, will just be so great for you and for them also. But to just get yourself out there and do it. And if you've got a company that supports you to go and do that, then it's even better, because you're going to be the one that is their next director, their next leader of that business, and the one that people come to when they want something from your business and representing them.
Yeah, because I would say I almost did everything a bit the opposite way round. And I know obviously confidence grows as you get older. That is just natural. I mean, some people have it naturally, some people you grow into it. I only joined women in property. I know we've mentioned it a few times, but I think it's really important, because I only joined it about 2.5 years ago, and I did it purposefully because I knew that I was at a point where I was like, this is daft. I'm sort of at the top of where I'm going to go at work, and what I'm doing is obviously lots more opportunities, but I still got such anxiety about being around new people, meeting new people, going into those situations. And like you say, no one ever gets used to it. No one's ever gone, oh, well, I love walking into a room where I don't know anyone. It's daunting. It's horrible. But it has helped me so much. It's real. I've forced myself to go to things where I know that I don't know anyone, and I have made myself go and talk to people. And the second you do it, you realise it's not as bad as everything you've built up in your head. And I think another thing I'd probably say, and it's so easy to say, you know, be confident, but also I think if you're, you know, a young person starting your career, you're going into an industry, I would say, while it's really important to have your own ideas and stick to your principles, be a sponge, absorb absolutely everything around you. I'm a real advocate of osmosis and learning by, you know, you listen, you take on board what people are saying. And that's not saying you have to agree with everything that's going on around you. You can look at people and go, I probably wouldn't do it that way, but you're understanding the nuances of what's going on around you.
And open plan officers are perfect for that.
Yes,
because you just
absolutely.
Naturally overhear other people's conversations, other people's, you know, on the phone dealing with a specific problem.
Well, we purposefully have our sales team and marketing. We're in an open plan office on purpose, because we just realised, and I mean years ago, we've always had open plan, and I'm talking 10 years, is that it helps, because most people we recruit as well don't come from the property industry. They don't have a property background, so some will, but especially for marketing, that's quite rare. You would get someone from a property background coming into your organisation. And sales, you know, you will get some salespeople that have jumped from property company or from real estate, but generally it's, are you a salesperson? And then learning the products, learning how our company works, and we found it really helps, but you have to sit and absorb it and learn. And I think as a young person, I mean, completely different conversation about, you know, hybrid working in an office. It's different for every company and everybody, and everyone's different. But for us, what we found is that that's how you observe, or someone might hear you saying something, and then, you know, I'll just sort of poke my head up and go, what did you just say? But I genuinely think that's how you learn. You sort of, people around you are listening to you and can help correct you or guide you in the right way. But then you're listening to other people, and you know, from the salespeople, they could be like, "Oh, I'll use that in my pitch. Yeah. That sounded really good." So I think it's just making sure you know, if you're going into an office, however, whatever, or working from home, whatever that culture is, really try and learn from the people around you, because I think I was a bit too afraid of it. Was different when I was young as well, because you were very much, this is what you learn at university, and then this is how it, you know, you theory, and then I can honestly say half of that probably went out the window the second I started a job. But it's about people, and don't be afraid. My big thing. And then everyone that knows me will laugh. I always say, ask questions. Yeah. I don't care how many questions you ask. Don't ask me the same question 3 days in a row, but ask questions. Yeah. Because if you don't ask a question, if you don't know the answer, how are you ever going to learn it? And I didn't ask enough when I was younger. I was painfully shy as well, and I would just sit there and I would then try and figure it out for myself, or try and find the answer surreptitiously. Just ask out loud, because what you probably find is that there's 3 other people that don't know the answer as well, and they're waiting for someone else to ask. And I think that's sort of the easiest thing in the world. Just open up and ask and learn. Just, you know, say, don't be afraid to say you don't know something. I think that's the biggest thing I would say. I was so afraid of someone saying to me, "Oh, you don't know that." Yeah, you should know it. You should know that. Yeah. When, let's be honest, 9 times out of 10, you only know something if someone's told it you. Yeah. And you can forget things. Yeah. quite easily. You can just forget things. Yeah. Because we say the same thing. Yeah. You know, at E3P, it's just, please ask the questions, because how will you ever know what the right thing is? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's really helped me since I started. So when I started, I was going to meetings all the time with Emma, constantly meeting with different consultants and clients and talking about projects, and just hearing so much stuff. And honestly, for the first year, I probably didn't speak in one single meeting. And even sometimes now, I don't speak in a meeting, but it's realising that you don't have to speak in that meeting for you to be important or to have got something out of it. I learned so much of what I know now, and there's things that I know that I didn't even think I'd know. When we drive past the building and I tell my mum and dad, and I'm like, "Oh, did you know this about this?" And I could reel off a load of really interesting facts that I wouldn't have ever known about before, because I've listened to other people say them, and probably 90% of the time when I'm out and about, I'm just regurgitating information that other people have said. Like, especially if we're doing like round table events, or we've got like a focus, we do events with a focus on a particular topic. It's great to really listen into what those people are saying, those experts in their field, and then being able to sort of digest that and then use it and hold a conversation with someone else and actually be able to get on their level and have that conversation with them. And it is literally just being a sponge and taking everything in that you possibly can, and using that to your advantage. And especially for me, I like, when I go out on site to look around, I find out loads of really interesting information about the sites, that what makes it different, what's the USP on that one, how we're doing something that's going to be better for the environment, and just learning all of that stuff about it. Is, again, when I'm then talking to people about what we're doing, I'm able to tell them all the really great stuff, but just like have that conversation with them and remember things about that certain thing. So just using other people to get their amazing knowledge and information, being able to then use that to your advantage, really.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Well, I suppose we could round off with, do any of you have any funny stories you want to share about being a woman in the property industry?
I have a few, some not suitable for this forum. But I think there's one that's kind of stuck with me, and it is quite funny. So I think I must have had the first baby, come back. So I was in that in-between stage before having the second, or maybe it was after my third. It's third.
Third?
I didn't have 3. I didn't have 3. I had 2. Maybe it was after my second.
You're telling us something, Steph.
And I was out on site. It was a remediation site, walking around with the site manager, was explaining, you know, what he needed to do to remediate a particular area, what you need to do with the materials, what it means, etc., etc. And he turned to me and he said, "Oh, okay. Well, can you not just bring that Steph back?" And I said, that's me. No, the really fat one. And I said, "Yeah, that was me. I was pregnant."
Did he look embarrassed?
He was he was adamant that I was a different person. And I said, "No, I was pregnant. I've now had the baby. I am now back. I am the same person." And it just always sticks with me because it's just it kind of captures part of being a woman in the industry, that and maybe going off, having babies, but things are constantly changing. Your body's constantly changing. You know, everything is constantly changing, and I guess it is quite difficult for everyone to keep up. But it just kind of captured that whole essence of being a woman on site, that I was 2 different people.
Yeah.
But I was definitely the same person.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I don't think I can top that. Can you?
No, I get mine being a different person goes as far as if I wear my hair up and someone meets me with my hair up in a bun.
Well, you know,
actually, that's a funny story, Steph.
I've been for a whole day at the races with Jamie before. Right at the end, she removes a hat and sunglasses and says, "Hi, Steph." And I didn't know she was there.
Didn't realise it was me.
No.
So not just men then?
No, not just men. I did have a hat on and sunglasses.
You did?
In
you were
the
in
staff's
proper
defence.
disguise.
It was a really sunny day. But yeah, I did get to the end of the day and I took them off, and I was thinking all day, like, she definitely does know me. But yeah, like I said, this happens
she's
to me
ignoring you
all the time, so I am quite used to it by now. And I was thinking, gosh, she hasn't really like said hello or anything, and I was like, oh, whatever. But she hadn't ignored me. She just politely like, "Hi, are you okay? Like, oh, isn't it a lovely day? What are you betting on the horses today?" And then we literally like got inside later, and she was like, "I'm so sorry, I just didn't even realise it was you." But that happens to me all the time. Like, especially if someone's met me with my hair up in a bun, in a pony, if I've got my hair down, and then they meet me again, they're literally like, don't recognise me, and I actually just don't take offence anymore because it happens so much. And then as well, my name, because my name is Jamie, quite often people will put on emails like, "Hi Jamie, great to speak to you," or someone will refer to me on an email, "Oh, you and him, do they want to come with you?" Like,
yeah,
and refer to me as like a he, and I have to just be like, "Oh, I'm actually a woman," but it's okay. Actually happened in the doctors to me the other day as well.
Did it?
So yeah, that's about as much as I get mistaken anyway.
Well, thank you both so much for coming on to the podcast, and thank you all for listening.